Hi everyone, it's Michael, and today we're going to be troubleshooting my Zygonisia Cynosure Bluebirds. Now you may recall this is an orchid that I picked up while I was in San Diego. I absolutely fell in love with it, but I'm afraid there's a little trouble in paradise. You'll see here on these two new growths that there are some unsightly brown spots. And that is what I believe to be a bacterial infection of brown rot, or it's also called Erwinia. Now, the reason I believe it to be Erwinia is because I've seen it before and I've dealt with it before, and I will link that video below. On a new growth, and it's not a symmetrical rot pattern. Ordinarily, if it's a nutritional issue, there's more symmetry involved. Like you'll see all the tips start to yellow, or you'll be able to identify if it's a mobile nutrient because old growths will start to pull some of that nutritional content and energy to support the new growths. But since it's on a new growth and since it's not symmetrical, this is definitely a bacterial infection. So the important thing to do here is remove these new growths. And as much as I've been trying to avoid unpotting anything because it's winter and it's not in active growth mode, it's imperative that I do so because this can spread all the way down to the base, infect the other pseudobulbs, and kind of take the life of the plant. Now, what I have in this bottle is very, very little of Physand 20 solution. See, I told you guys, I didn't completely give up on Physand 20, I just had to learn how to use it better. Now, for the intents and purposes of this process, the way that I'm using my Physand 20 is I used it to sterilize my workspace to ensure that there was no bacteria. And then once I've removed these new growths, I'm going to use it to sterilize the open wound that it creates on the plant to ensure that no bacterial rot can take hold of a pseudobulb or at the base of where the incisions are made or where the divisions are made, depending on how I have to handle it. So first step in this process is I'm going to unpot the orchid and we'll take a closer look. But actually, before I do that, I just want to take you in. It's actually doing surprisingly well. I thought that this guy was going to completely rot out its root system, but that root system is, as you can see, it's really hanging on. It's green, it's plump, it's juicy in a lot of different places. You can also see that the pseudobulbs are still super plump. They're just starting to shrivel a bit, which is to be expected because it has to invest that energy into learning this new grow method and creating a new root system. But there's a few other new growths that are doing just fine. But if I tilt the plant this way, you can kind of see that the new growths are really putting down some new roots, like right there. So that's fabulous. So as I unpot this, let's talk about how this happened. You guys, I really think that I was just careless when I did my repot because obviously I go through the process of treating and rinsing everything. And what I needed to do was dangle this upside down and ensure that all of the water came out. New growths are especially susceptible to this kind of rot, but I didn't do that, and I think this is the consequence. So here we go. Oh, I'm sorry, little guy. I know you're just getting comfortable. All right, you guys, this is actually pretty amazing. The root system is almost entirely still viable, which I haven't seen happen. It definitely did not happen with my Zygopedilum. So that's great news. And then as I rotate this guy, I'm gonna be super gentle. You can see that this healthy new growth is doing a great job of putting down plenty of brand new roots. So this guy is going to be just fine, but we do need to get these two off. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this down. I'll reposition the camera and we will go in closer. Here we are a little closer. And as I mentioned, these are the two troublemakers. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna try to divide it by pulling it right off. I don't want to disturb the rest of the plant, but they do need to go. So I'm just going to give it a little tug. It's coming, but it's not coming willingly. I'm going to give it a little twist. All right, and off it goes. Sorry, little guy. So now let's kind of dissect this and see. I don't know why dissecting is my new thing, but let's pull it back little by little and kind of see what's happening here. So, healthy. Kind of reminds me of celery. But as you can see, the rot is kind of, it's super pronounced across the entire leaf, which you can see there. But then as it gets closer, it is slowly progressing deeper and deeper into the base of the growth. So eventually what would happen is this would transgress this boundary, go down into the root system and pseudobulbs and start to infect the others, which is why we needed to remove it. So now let's go ahead and do its sibling. This one is a little trickier because it is right next to a bunch of other healthy new growth that I truly don't want to disturb. Oh, and there it goes. So you can see a lot more clearly on this one how far it has progressed because it went all the way down to here. It was getting awful close to the base of the plant, and then it could start to infect all of the other new growths. So now that those have been removed, and actually this is one that it had just, oh, that's good news. I didn't realize that this was one that it had just bloomed off of, so I'm not even losing a bloom. The growth habit of this guy is that flower spikes come in on immature new growths, so I was fortunate enough to enjoy the blooms with this one before I had to get rid of it. You know, I was planning on using the Physant 20, but it really didn't transgress a point where I feel like it's absolutely imperative to use it. So I'm just gonna use some good old-fashioned hydrogen peroxide. Got my hydrogen peroxide in a spray bottle here, and I'm just gonna give it a quick little spritz and let it sit for 10 minutes before I repot it. Okay, Google, set a timer for 10 minutes.
Sure, 10 minutes, and here we go.
The 10-minute treatment is complete, so what I've done is I've gone ahead and rinsed the root system, taking great care to not get water in any of the new growths or on any of the leaves. I want to be absolutely certain I don't create the same problem that I just resolved. And then I went ahead and repotted the plant. Now, since I used hydrogen peroxide, which strips the roots of all bacteria, good and bad, I'm going to give this a flush of plain tap water, and then I'm going to fill the water reservoir with just plain distilled water, no nutrient solution for the next 2 weeks, and then I will resume regular fertilizing as usual. I hope that this has been helpful, or I hope this gives you some insights about how you can tackle this problem if it presents itself. And as always, I so appreciate you spending your time with me. Thank you guys so much for everything. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day and happy growing. Bye.